Good afternoon or evening or whatever the hell this is. It's Friday night. It's the 11th of January. It's 2019, last I checked. And it's the Gold Goats and Guns Hour, and my name is Tom Luongo. We got a lot to talk about tonight. I've got a lot of things I want to say, and I'm going to do my best to stay on topic for a little while, and then I'm going to go off topic because, frankly, part of me is getting a little tired of talking about all this stuff, and I kind of just want to spend a little bit of time not talking about stuff that y'all care about, frankly. It's while we wait for people to get into the channel, the fun part about it is I know you guys, well, at least some of you know, because you've been with me for a long time now. Some of you know that if I were to pan the camera, or at least even just pull back on the camera, if I were just to do that, and then like shift it over, you'd see that bass guitar over there. See, in a former life, I used to be a musician, right? In a former life, I really did spend most of my time thinking about, caring about, and, you know, that's what I did, you know. Before I became politically interesting, I spent most of my time, you know, considering myself an artist first and everything else second. I mostly just went to work in order to fund my time spent doing all the things that I truly love to do. And I still feel that way today. And for the last week or so, every waking moment, since I bought an amplifier for my guitar, because I know you guys know that also I've been like teaching myself how to play the guitar for the last couple of years. I've been working on that steadily, making, I would say, reasonable progress. Nothing great. I also spent 7 years as a drummer as well, by the way. So really, when it comes down to it, you know, in my heart of hearts, first and foremost, I'm a musician first, and all this other stuff is just to pay the bills, even though I'm really good at it. So, because, you know, part of what I do here is I do take a writer's, an artist expression, an artist perspective on how to present this material. Because it's very important that it's important to me, because it's what keeps me interested. It's what keeps me engaged and jazzed and everything. So literally this live stream tonight is a little late because I'm sitting here like playing around with various new things that I bought earlier in the week, and I've got myself like up my ass trying to figure out how I'm gonna, you know, what bass I'm gonna buy next, because my poor Rickenbacker that's been my Rickenbacker 4003, which has been literally my baby for the last 35 years, has now gotten to the point where it's unplayable because, well, the neck is about shot. So, and the frets are gone and yada, yada, yada. So it's now the time to like hang it up, put it on the wall. But every time I plug it in, I just remind myself just how much I love it and how much I adore it and how much you can't really get that sound anywhere else, right? And new ones are $1,800, and I don't have $1,800 to spend on a bass. So, and used ones are $1,000 or $1,200, and I don't have $1,200 to spend on a bass. So now it's trying to find something that comes close to approximating that for something somewhere in my price range. But none of that matters to you. Ultimately, I know that doesn't, because you guys want to talk about geopolitics. You want to talk about the stuff going on in the world. And honestly, it's been a whirlwind week. It's been a great week. We've had a lot of great media coverage. I got quoted by Paul Joseph Watson, got quoted by the Duran earlier in the week, was on Fault Lines this morning with Lee and Garland, and I made them crack up. I was on Rents the other night. Just been kind of a whirlwind week. And on top of everything else, we had Baby Goats on Tuesday night. So, you know, I may be running at the mouth right now, but only because I've had like one decent night's sleep in the last 3 days. So, as we do all this, as we talk through all this tonight, understand that it's like I'm at like kind of my saturation point with some of the stuff, even though this is the time to be doubling down and inviting all the new viewers to remind them that I don't just do that, right? So we added, I think, close to 200 people on YouTube in the last 7 days, which has been fantastic. We're up over 1,400 people. So hopefully we'll get some of those new people to show up tonight. So, yeah, the Baby Goats were great. So Ray, right? So we bought a buck named Poe and a doe named Diamond. I'm going to go through this really quick. And I'm like, look, we do the science fiction names on our animals, and we've named more goats after Farscape characters than most people have ever owned animals in their life. So So we got this buck named Poe, and he's a horn dog. What a shock. And I'm like, well, I can't go with Diamond. She's a cute goat, but she honestly looks like chocolate chip cookie dough, right? She's kind of blonde with all black spots all through her, you know. But and she's adorable, and she's completely freaked out at having changed homes and everything, and being pregnant and all of that. But I renamed her Ray because I just think that's funny, and I think we're gonna keep the little girl, and we're gonna name her Rose, and we're gonna just like do the whole Star Wars episodes 7 through 9 thing with all of her progeny. I think that'll be just that's what we're going to do. But so Tuesday morning, I finally bring her on Monday. I finally bring her on the stand for the first time in her life. She's 4 years old. She's never been milked before. She's always raised her own babies because the woman I bought her from didn't milk her goats. She's got mini Nubians, and they're gorgeous. And she had just a bevy of just gorgeous goats. And honestly, Poe is probably the best buck for milking for milk goats that I've ever owned. Most of my goats in the past, I've owned feigning goats, which are meat goats, and I've kept my feigning goat bucks and bred them to my larger Nubians to make smaller goats. And the meat goats are not bred for good udders and good feet and everything else because they're meat goats. They were grown for be hardy as fuck and get to playing weight, i.e. slaughter weight, within 4 to 5 months. That was what the woman that I bought my feigning goats from bred for, and my God, she's amazing. Her goats are unbelievable. So you cross them with Nubians that are born looking for a place to die because they overproduce their milk, and so therefore they put no energy back into themselves. So at the first moment they get sick, you're like, oh my God, they're gonna die. I mean, and this was literally my life for like 5 years. So I've come to the conclusion, and I really enjoyed having these crosses, right? So you have milk goat crosses with meat goats, and you wind up with a very hardy goat. But you wind up with a very hardy goat that if they throw phenotypically, right, like they've got long ears and a big nose and good conformation, they're probably going to milk like a milk goat. And if they throw looking like, you know, a meat goat, well, they're going to milk like a meat goat. So all the ones that milked like a meat goat got sold or slaughtered or whatever, and all the ones that milk like milk goats we've kept. We've had some success with them over the years, but but you know, getting ones that have like not lopsided udders and feet that aren't horrible and all of that stuff, that's been the challenge. So these guys are absolutely gorgeous. They've got great feet. The girl's got an amazing udder, and the boy Poe is just, he's one of the prettiest. From a conformation standpoint, he's absolutely the best looking milk goat buck I've ever owned. So really cool. So Tuesday night, so I bring her on the stand for the first time on Monday. She's all freaked out. I have to drag her across the yard to put her up on the stand, literally like manhandle her, put her up on the stand. Poor thing. Feed her, talk to her nice. She's all freaked out, but this is the normal process. She has no frame of reference as to what's going on here. And she and I don't really even get along yet because I've only owned her about a week and a half. So slowly but surely, got her on the stand a couple of times, so at least she knew what the process was. And then she drops kids on Tuesday night. Now, she has 2 kids. She has a boy and she has a girl. The boy comes first, and the boy is enormous. He's got his dad's, and this is one of the other problems with crossing large goats with small goats, is that you have a mom who's of a size, you have a dad who's of the same size, but the problem is that the kids could throw towards one side or the other more heavily. And in this case, the little boy is not little. He's throwing very much like a Nubian buck coming out of this mini Nubian doe, and he presents normally, head, 2 feet, right, all like he's supposed to, right in the birth canal, and she can't push him out. She can't for the life of him push him out. So we see the feet come out. Camille reaches up in there, and there's the nose. We're like, okay, he's presenting properly. He's not breached. He's not this, you know, this poor goat's like, she's pushing, and she can't get anywhere with him. Eventually, I had to pull him out. So, and had we not been there, they'd have all died. FYI. I mean, this is not anything new with us. This is normal. Actually, this is part of what you go through with this. So when we talk gold goats and guns, when we talk preparation and all of these things, we talk about this stuff sometimes in romantic terms. There's the practical side of this. There's the there's the stressful part of it, which is, you know, are they going to drop dead because they ate the wrong thing off the ground and then got sick, and then everything spirals out of control in 12 hours, and you go to bed one night and everybody's fine. You wake up in the morning and someone's blowing poop all over the pasture, and there's got 3 hours to live. What do you do? Right? We've been in that situation many times. It's awful. And it's that moment that you realize that you either get competent quick or you get out of the business. So we got competent relatively quickly. We still just difficult. It's just a hard business. But pulled the kid out. First kid came out. Eventually we got him out. Poor thing. You know, really all I did was kind of hold on to his feet and kept pressure on his feet until she just pushed him out. Eventually he came out, and then the little girl came right after him, and everything was fine, and she was up and standing and in great shape, because I didn't let her go long enough that she got really tired from pushing, because you never want to get them to that state where then they can't push the second kid out. You do want to intervene once you know what the situation is. You want to intervene as quickly as possible so that the poor girl doesn't wear herself out, because to be honest with you, she was a little skinny. And I had been trying to feed her up and trying to get a little bit of weight on her and trying to get her a little stronger into the end of her pregnancy. But he grew so quickly that she was actually, I think she might have actually been early with these guys. I think they were actually 2 days early. Though I'll tell you, they were the strongest freaking kids I've ever seen. I mean, no problem. Like, immediately they came out, within 20 minutes, they were like, all right, where's the bottle? And none of this, I don't know where the bottle is, and I don't like the bottle. And they like latched right the frick on, and it was great, because, you know, there ain't nothing worse than having to sit there then for the next 2 hours after the stressful birth of trying to get these kids fed. So, just a little behind the scenes look here. This has been my week. It's been a whirlwind, and it's been crazy. And, you know, between requests for interviews and whatnot, it's just, and baby goats, and having to feed them on a 4-hour schedule and not getting any sleep. Yeah, it's been kind of crazy. So, you know, it is what it is. I don't even care if this is a particularly successful live stream tonight, guys. I don't really care. All right, so let's get to it. Right. So we did that. We did the thing. Yeah, I really don't even care about the government shutdown. Let's talk about the shutdown real quick. So apparently this is the longest government shutdown of all time. And Trump looks like he's in for the long haul. I remember something that user 13 brought up to me in private last week. She said, you know, why doesn't he just, like, you know, executive order open the parks and just leave everybody else out in to twist in the wind? And then about 3 months from now, everybody goes, everybody cool with them not coming back to work, and let's just save all the money, you know? That'd be great. Let's fire everybody. So, yes, North on 60 twins. And twins is actually really normal. It's triplets you got to watch out for in goats. Goats will triplet. Goats will even quad. But with these mini goats, with these mini Nubians, or these, you know, these half-breed Nubians and whatnot, triplets are dangerous. We had a situation last year with one of our girls. I'll go back. One last story here. We had a situation last year with one of our girls, like literally our best doe, who we wound up having to give away, so for a variety of other reasons. And she went through the same thing this year with the friend of ours that we gave her to. She's such a great animal. She's of such high quality that, you know, the buck looks at her and she grows triplets. So she's 3 years old now, or 4 years old now, and this is her second set of triplets in 3 years. But last year with us, the first kid presented literally sideways. Like, they're supposed to present with their little feet, with their nose sitting on their feet, like on their chin like this, and then the whole thing comes out and they slide out that way. And then once they get past the shoulders, the kid just slides right out. This kid was literally, this was his shoulder presenting to the cervix. So there was no way she was ever going to push him out. She was strong enough to push him out. She was trying, but no way was it ever going to happen. So Camille literally had to reach in. I had to hold her down while Camille reached in and turned the kid to get the head. We're crying. She's screaming. I've never seen Camille. I know I did a live stream after this talking about this. I've never seen Camille so upset in her entire life, because Camille is usually an emotional rock when it comes to stressful situations. She's amazing. It's one of the reasons why I adore my wife as much as I do, is because she keeps me on the straight and narrow, because I'm usually the hyper emotional one. And Camille was more upset during that birth than she was during the giving birth to Sophie, to be honest with you. I mean, I was floored. But of course, in that moment, you don't care. You have to be in the moment. And it's one of those things where you remind yourself. Jordan Peterson talks about competence hierarchies. He talks about dominance hierarchies are based on competence and not power. In that moment, in those moments, that's when you find out whether you've made your right choices and whether your personal dominance hierarchy has got everybody's competent, everybody's competent at what they do, and can the household function properly? Can your own little community of people, will that function properly? And I will tell you this. Ain't no one better than Camille, but Camille did. She had to go in there literally up to her elbow, push the kid back, get him situated, and then eventually get him out. And once we got the first kid out, the other two just came right out after that, and everything was fine. But poor Jewel, the name of the goat, poor girl. I mean, because you didn't understand that then I immediately have to get her stood up within 10 minutes and get her on the stand and milk her out. Okay? She's exhausted. But I've got to milk her in order to feed the kids, because the kids have to eat her milk with their first meal, because that's what helps get them all the antibodies that they need to set up their immune system. Because without that, they'll never be healthy. So it's that first day they have to get the colostrum off their mom. After that, it doesn't matter. You can feed them freaking cow's milk; they don't give a shit. I mean, it's not great. You're better off feeding them your mother's milk for at least a week, and then move them onto a goat milk replacer, which is what we do. Because once their milk is drinkable, then we take it, because that's what the goat's for. But seriously, we need to have that first milking for those kids. And then after that, it really, it's not necessary. After the first one, really the first day, after that, it really doesn't matter. If you've got colostrum stored, you can make that work. You can even transition them over to cow's milk almost immediately. But that first day is so important, that first milking. So the poor girl, I felt terrible. Like, I just wanted to sit there and pet her and, bake her, and just, help her through it and, feed her and everything. But I can't. I have to be, I have to be hard at that point. I have to, all right, girl, come on, let's go. And, walk her all the way across the yard, get her up onto the stand. She's still leaking out the back. She's still she hasn't even passed her afterbirth yet. And I've got her on the stand milking her, because we have to do that. So those kids have to be fed within the first 20 minutes to half an hour. So, yeah. Gold goats and or gold guns and oh my fucking god. All right, well, let's talk about some stuff that you guys care about. All right. So yeah, it was a very nice week, Thor Doom. I appreciate everybody's support. Everything was great. Capital markets are still partially shut down. I have to say, Mark, they really are acting kind of like in shell shock. Mark Bogosian says, capital markets are still partially shut down, and Mark would know. Mark's a professional, financial professional, far more of a financial professional than I am. Yeah, I have to agree with you that they really aren't acting normally at this point. I think they're all in kind of shell shock as to what to do next, because every day the narrative on all of these major narratives keep changing. You've got the shutdown in the government shutdown in the United States. You've got the will they, won't they pull out of Syria, which it looks like they are. You've got every day the narrative as to what's going to happen with Brexit changes. So as of yesterday, or even like this morning, I was watching the Alex and Alex on the Duran, and they really felt that it looked like everybody had finally acquiesced to the point, other than the deep state, the British deep state, that we're going to a hard Brexit. Jeremy Corbyn and Theresa May both look like they want to go that route. They've made their peace with it. And now today, the Speaker of the House, the Speaker of Parliament, just threw out 400 years worth of rule sets and everything else in order to try and force a second referendum. That's scary. If you haven't watched the latest video from Alex and Alex over at the Duran, I absolutely recommend you do so, because Mercouris knocks it out of the park, explaining the situation now with Brexit, which is really, really important. So you've got Brexit is, will they, won't they Brexit? You've got will they, won't they pull out of Syria? You've got the Yellow Vests calling for bank runs in France. You've got Salvini very, very opportunistically going after everybody and setting up a major challenge to the European parliamentary elections in May. You've got Davos coming up in a couple of weeks, and Trump's not going to go. They're not allowing Macron to go. All of this, as I put out this afternoon, I said in my article this afternoon, it's a trifecta of suck for the Davos crowd. And, that couldn't happen to a nicer bunch of fucking oligarchs. So, no corporate issuance other than shelf offerings. Yeah. Do you really think that we're going to get a lot of corporate debt offerings in this environment? I don't. I really don't. So, Tonaloke, I do like the 55 EMA. I actually like the 11, 22, 55. Actually, the 22, 55, 144, and 288 EMA series. It's a very interesting. Series of moving averages. That moving average series is actually really quite useful for projecting support and resistance numbers. I don't do it a lot because I like to try and keep things simple for my subscribers in my my biweekly market reports that I do for my patrons that are behind the paywall, obviously. I really do. I do like those. I do like that series, and I will use it. But I like to try and keep things very simple, just to explain, because most of my subscribers are not professionals. They're not, high-end traders or anything. They really just want to know what the big actionable information is and boil things down to the simplest interpretation, while I try to teach them how to read a chart, how to just read a candlestick chart. I think that's really the best thing. And then if somebody wants a deeper read, well, they can ask me for it. I'll be happy to do so. That's what we have the private Slack server for and everything else. So, yeah. So let's talk about the trifecta of suck. I think that's my new. I might even rename this. Gold, Goats, and Guns, the trifecta of suck. So watching Bolton get betch slapped over Syria withdrawal was really nice. I have to agree. Erdogan killed it this week. He really, really did. President Erdogan of Turkey basically told John Bolton to go scratch. You've got Defense Department officials going, look, we don't take our orders from John Bolton. So at this point, John Bolton and Pompeo both are really trying as much as they possibly can to prep a narrative for Trump and force him into a bad situation. And Trump is, interestingly enough, ignoring all of it. And I love the fact, actually, that Trump is doing this, and that he's focusing on border security. He's focusing on the things he should be focusing on, and he's staying the hell out of the media. Since he made his appeal to the people the other day, Trump has been mostly silent. I haven't seen him making noise. He's been out there actually acting presidential and doing work, as opposed to, tweeting like a fucking narcissistic teenager. And that's a great thing. This is the kind of thing I want to see from him. Notice how he's not fomenting chaos. Notice how he's not poking people. He's saying things that need to be said, and then he's getting the fuck out of the way and going and getting work done. And that's great. I wish to hell he would fire Bolton. He probably will. I think at this point, it almost feels like, depending on how things go, he's setting Bolton up. Remember, I talked to you about the Philip Weiss article from Mondo Weiss that was on Russia Insider a couple of weeks ago, where Weiss postulated that Trump's pullout from Syria signals that he's done with Sheldon Adelson. And that's a big thing as far as I'm concerned. That would be interesting, that Trump himself is beginning to pull back from the Israeli first position that he kind of put himself into in order to pay Adelson back, because Adelson promised him that he would hold the House with the midterms, and then he didn't. And Trump's like, well, fuck you, you're worthless. I don't give a shit how much money you give me. Your money's not worth anything. I don't need you. I can go do it myself. Well, if that's the case, if Weiss is right about that, then we're in better shape than we thought. Pat Lang thinks, according to Joanne Leone, Pat Lang thinks that Erdogan called Trump and said, who the hell is running your foreign policy? You or Bolton? Well, apparently for about 3 months, it was John Bolton and not Donald Trump. I'm feeling fine. I'm just, it's just been a really, really hectic week. Good kind of hectic, though. I mean, all this was happening. And oh, by the way, we still have to get the issue out on Wednesday morning. So my partner and I'm dealing with Baby Goats Tuesday night. He's furiously trying to get the issue edited, and we're trying to get the whole thing finalized and out the door. I've got Baby Goats getting I'm working on 4 hours of sleep. It's like, and then I finally get a couple of hours to myself, and it's going to be my Wednesday night gaming. I literally sit down to start teaching guys a new game, and I get a call from Camille saying, call me back right now. Jeff Rentz is on the line. He wants you for an interview tonight at 10. I'm like, oh, well, guess we're not playing the new game tonight. Let's, pulled out Orleans and played that. And I got done at about 8:30, chatted with my friend Larry about, buying a new bass for 20 minutes, and then hightailed it home and did an hour with Jeff Rentz, which I thought went really well. So, and then, stayed up to 1 o'clock editing videos and stuff. So, or recording and editing videos. So it's just been a crazy, crazy week. Yeah, it was interesting to see. Joanne, you're right. I mean, how many times have we said this exact thing? Joanne says it was interesting to see the reaction when Trump announced the Oval Office speech. Everybody freaked out. He should have used the Oval Office ages ago. We've been saying this exact thing. Stop empowering the media to go after you and use the bully pulpit properly. So, it was just a lot. It was just great, to watch him finally do that. So there's Thordoom. Pompeo announced an anti-Iran gathering in Poland next month because it's the only place you can actually organize something like that, where he wants to push for Arab NATO. Yeah, not realizing that there is forming a much stronger alliance between Russia, China, Iraq, Iran, Turkey, and Qatar. No, it hasn't. It's not forming. It's already formed. It's just the United States refuses to admit that it's formed. So Pompeo is, again, these guys are at least 2 steps behind the entire process. I mean, that's the problem here. They're they really do think that they're like operating in this world where they still matter. And John Bolton going around the Middle East and trying to drum up support for Sykes-Picot on acid, and still thinks that he can like dictate terms to Turkey, who basically told him to go fuck himself. It was laughable. And that Trump is like fuming about this. If he wasn't so tied up with border security and everything else, he would. There's gonna be a comeuppance for this, because he knows that makes not only him look bad, it makes America look bad, and that's not acceptable to Donald Trump, regardless of what you think of Donald Trump. Remember, Trump may be compromised. He may not be the optimal person for the job that he's in. There may be all these things, all the stuff that we've talked about. But at the end of the day, I believe Donald Trump's patriotism. Okay, I believe that. I believe that's part of his animating spirit. I just believe that the best way to get something good out of Donald Trump is to be mean to him. I've just come to that conclusion after 2.5 years of dealing with this guy. Steve Pacenik says fire Bolton. I said fire Bolton the day after you freaking hire him. It's almost inevitable at this point that Bolton goes. Pompeo is also going to go. They're both going to go, but they can't go now. Because remember, during the Christmas week, Trump met with a hedge fund manager, an unnamed hedge fund manager, probably somebody big like Stan Druckenmiller or somebody big, who told him, who asked him, what do we have to do to stop the markets from melting down? And he said, look, stop being a jackass. Stop being Donald Trump for a week. Cut a trade deal with China, or at least signal that you are. Okay? Stop the staff turnover. It's crazy. But I think what he has to do at this point is, he really does have to, like stabilize his staff. He's got to get control of his staff. But unfortunately, he's got to get control of his staff now that he's saddled with these terrible, terrible people. He's got to stabilize his staff with these people. And that's not, and Bolton's not going to, Bolton is nobody's nobody's lackey. He's going to continue to do exactly what he wants to do because he thinks he's protected by his position of being the favorite of a lot of very powerful people. Oh, Colleen, I'm sorry, hon. Ugh. Can't. Wow. Colleen Jensen fell today hard, shattered her phone and broke her hand. Wow. You don't owe me that kind of loyalty, love. Seriously. I mean, Pompeo and User 13, you're absolutely right. Pompeo was completely incompetent. He is literally just reading talking points at this point, handed to him by AIPAC. Now, I think he has to be fired at this point. I really do. If you want to watch John Bolton be humiliated, go watch the speech that Erdogan made. Go read Erdogan's op-ed in the New York Times. He gave a speech to Parliament after snubbing John Bolton, where he literally said, I don't take my orders from Israel, John Bolton, and I don't answer to you. You're not the president. Colleen, he has potential still. Yes, because of his desire to be the best president in history. I think he is sincere. I do think that Trump wants to do the right thing. I don't think he knows exactly what the right thing is because he's compromised in a lot of ways. His faults as a human being, his limitations as a human being are what he has to overcome. And that's going to be the hardest part. What will happen with the Mueller investigation? It's going to be used to try and shame Trump out of office. Michael Cohen is not interesting in and of himself. Michael Cohen is only interesting in that Michael Cohen probably gave Mueller the roadmap to all of Trump's real lawyers, and that they're going to go through everything that all of Trump's business deals from New York and then try and, shame him out of office on petty corruption is the best I can come up with. And they're hoping that there's something really juicy in there when I don't think there is. Yeah, I mean, and the Arab NATO is never going to fly. Duran, you're so right. I mean, the GCC is completely split. If anything, the GCC is going to be that Qatar is going to lead a revolt against the GCC at the end of the day, and certainly against the Saudis. Edward Abbey, this is a very good comment, that Trump sets the conditions from which they can either resign, Sessions and Mattis, or trip over their own greedy egos and bring themselves down, i.e. give them enough rope to hang themselves. See, when Trump first made the deal with the neocons back in August of 2017 to basically cede them foreign policy while he tried to work on domestic policy, I really felt that was the situation. And that, of course, he was paying back AIPAC at the same time. I really do believe that he was thinking to himself, well, okay, fine, you guys can have foreign policy for a while. You're going to cock it all up anyway, because you're going to just do the exact same things you've always done. And then eventually, right after the midterms or whatever, I'm going to pull the reins in on you guys, and you guys are going to have to show me results, or that's that. And I do believe that is still kind of the plan. The real question is as to whether or not he's actually completely compromised or not. And at this point, I don't know. Okay. And it's got to be real. I've got to see the troops out of Syria. I've got to see no Blackwater come in behind and replace them. I've got to see a lot of things happen here. And yeah, getting rid of John Bolton and, bringing somebody else in as national security advisor. I mean, look, Bolton can stay around as national security advisor. It's fine. He just can't set policy. And Trump has got to say, no, you don't go and meet with foreign heads of state as if you're the Secretary of State, or better yet, that you're the fucking president. You're going to do what I tell you to do. And if you don't like it, get the fuck out of here. I only can hope. Cube Dog, the first 2 years he played the neocons game. The second 2, maybe he goes more with his gut. Hey, anybody else notice that? Thoughts on Nikki Haley being hired by the Sanhedrin group to head what they claim to be a new Israeli-led replacement for the UN? No, I didn't see that, but I'm not surprised. And so, by the way, I'm going to wind up winning my bet with Halsey, because the day after Haley was fired, I told him, I said, Haley was fired. Trump didn't let her go. She didn't resign. She didn't quit. Trump fired her because he fired her because I'm dead serious. It happened right after the IL-20 shootdown. I'm dead serious that she fucking knew that Israel, France, and the UK were going to pull this to try and get his ass to force him into Syria, which he didn't want to do. And I'll bet you that she was the conduit for all of the intelligence. And he fired her over it. So what a shock that she's going to go get hired to go head up some new Israeli-led organization. Fine, great. Yeah, Pompeo is just stupid and has a very, he's not stupid, but he has a very shallow view of history, one handed to him by West Point. So I'm not surprised. Pompeo was sold to us as a genius, but he's not. I mean, he's not. He's just he's just not interesting. He's really, really cut and dried and he's very conventional of modern American foreign policy thinking. He's very much stuck in that mindset, and he's fundamentally, he and Bolton both see Israel as the bulwark, or as the vanguard for the assault on the heartland that's been going on since the 40s, and they still think that they're going to win, and they're not. Demographics are shifting against them. The generational tide is shifting against them. The Russians and the Syrians and Chinese are just running out the clock on them. Iran is laughing at him at this point. Iran is laughing at all of them at this point. What? When did Trump tweet about getting rid of the Magnitsky Act? Yeah, so what Halsey will owe me is a couple of articles written for Gold, Goats, and Guns, because Haley's not going to find her way back into the Trump administration, by June. That's not going to happen. And then, and I've edited Halsey's work. I've read Halsey's work in the past, and I'll have to do some serious edits on it because he writes kind of stream of consciousness, and which is fine. I will probably have to spend more time making it presentable than. Then it would be worth me just writing myself. And if Halsey, if you're watching, dude, it's true. Because he used to pay me to edit his work. When I wrote for Halsey News, which is fine. It's all good, and I mean it all in good fun. Or you can just he's a patron, he's a fan, Halsey is fantastic, and I can give him a little bit of shit every once in a while. And I know he's not thin-skinned like Adam the douchebag. That would be Adam the douchebag Gingrich. Okay. Who I haven't heard hide nor hair of. Is he still even around, or did he drink his liver into a coma? Like I give a fuck. Okay. The AIPAC types are their own worst enemy. They overreach writ large. Well, that's Israel. Israel, honestly, the Israeli intelligentsia, leadership, whatever, the people at the top of Israeli political dominance hierarchy, for lack of a better term, really do believe they have all the cards. They own the media, they own this, they own that, they own, they have important connect. I wouldn't say they own, but they have significant pull within the media, within Hollywood, within politics, within this. They're spread out everywhere, and their money is, and they really do believe that their money and their influence gives them more than they actually have. And that's the problem, is that there comes a point where the lies and cost, not just the lies, but even just the histrionics, eventually they wear off. You cry wolf enough times, you cry the anti-Semite wolf enough times, people are just like, stop. Now you have to spend even more money. You have to spend even more, and then you have to spend more political capital in order to try and keep this going. This is the same story that's happening in Europe. You know, eventually the lies and the bullshit eventually just becomes so expensive to maintain that eventually the whole thing collapses. And it's a metaphor for the sovereign debt crisis as well. It's the same thing. The lies are the pension systems and the fact that we can continue to live off of our grandchildren's labor pulled forward into the pulled from the future into the present, and that's a sustainable business model. It's not. It's bullshit. Yeah, no, Pompeo is fundamentally unlikable. So, but that's okay. If you know, look, I'm kind of fundamentally unlikable, but you know, I'm on the right side of the issue, so fuck it. You know. Apparently, they made a coin in honor of Haley's exemplary service at the U.S. ambassador. What, in Israel? I wouldn't doubt it. He started out quoting the Bible in Egypt. Oh my God. Oh God, oh my God. No, Salvini is unbelievable. Stoyanovich, he's unbelievable. He's got Trump's understanding of timing. He knows when to push. He knows when to twist the knife. He's brilliant. Neocons running forward policy is like watching a Three Stooges skit. NBC were making a case for Trump being buddies with the Russian Federation. It makes sense, right? But it doesn't mean it's true. Trump's a smart businessman. He plans ahead. He strategizes, having better perspective. Maybe. He's a real estate developer. That doesn't take a whole lot of planning. That takes no, he hasn't really. Rex Tillerson is a businessman, right? That's a guy who's run a really big, strategically important organization. Trump, not so much. Not in comparison. But, you know, he has good experience. Israel bombed Syria again today. Did they use civilians as human shields? Oh, so we haven't seen Adam in months. Yeah, there's that thing about burning out. Burning out. As opposed to, you know, you just show up every day and do stuff every day and play to your strengths and have strengths. You know? Yep. The Paul Joseph Watson thing, Ryu, was ridiculous. Like I said, I had just gotten Camille. I was on Wednesday afternoon was a big deal. Like, I'm driving into town. I'm like driving on the campus, you know, University of Florida campus, because we meet at the student union in the cafeteria at the student, or the food court at the student union. That's where we play all night because it's open till 1 a.m. And there's food and there's coffee and there's Starbucks and there's Wendy's and all that stuff. So it's great. Okay. I'm driving on the campus. I get these texts for Camille. It's like, dude. And then she calls me like, dude. I'm like, what? She's like, Paul Joseph Watson. Yeah. I'm like, what? She's like hyperventilating. She's like, okay. And I watched it and I literally had just sat down. It was, you know, it was like, cool. I was like, I sent him a DM, thanked him for it, you know, the whole 9 yards. And he hasn't gotten back to me. So whatever. That's fine. I really appreciated him reading that. I thought it was great. Just search all of Trump's tweets with none containing the word Magnitsky. I didn't think he was going to. There's no way that Trump is going to go after. He cannot go after the Magnitsky Act at this point in time. That is just not going to happen. So, a corrupt money begets a corrupt society. Bingo, Cube Dog. That's like my motto at this point. Yep. All right, so AM Joyce said Trump did tweet about relaxing sanctions regarding Crimea and the Magnitsky Act. Have not confirmed. Entrenched elites will be their own undoing via their own debauchery, being too comfortable, as you say, and having a lock on their hegemony. The truth is, as they say over and over again, power doesn't make you smart. Power doesn't even, you don't even maintain your smarts when you have power. It makes you lazy and stupid. Just you've got power. You just use power, beat people until they stop, until they submit. You don't have to, yeah, you know, you don't have to, it's not hard calculus. You don't have to use your acumen. You don't have to be strategically or tactically smart. You can just like throw your weight around. And when you throw your weight around indiscriminately, people eventually figure out a way to get ways of getting around that. And then they know, and then they can anticipate that that's all you're going to do. And then they set their strategies up otherwise. I mean, dude, I play board games all week long. Right? This is, you know, what I do for as a hobby. And play board games that are really deep in terms of their strategy and their tactics and everything else. And I fall prey to the same problem. You know, when you're sitting on a board where you're just winning, you're like, okay, I'm going to win. You know, okay, so stop this, asshole. And I can tell you that there have been many times where I'm like, didn't think the situation through. I'm like, this is the obvious thing to do. I'm going to push all in here because this is what I got. I can, you know, and then you get called. And especially at the poker table. The poker is really the best metaphor for this, better than a lot of the board games that I play, because the German board games don't really give you that kind of, those kinds of opportunities. Ameritrash games like Risk do. Poker is really the big one, where you get lazy, and I've done this at the poker table, where I've been able to, you know, bully people around at the poker table by fronting better cards that I have, and then turning around and eventually somebody figuring it out and then calling me on it. And immediately at that point, I have to back off. I have to change tactics. I have to change the way I play. And the good poker players know when to change up in anticipation of getting called. Getting their bluff called. I can tell you, watching these guys play, like Bolton and Pompeo, and even Trump. Trump's terrible. Dude, Trump's a terrible poker player, by the way. He is. I can tell you, they're not any good at this. But they understand. But Trump understands the dynamic. Okay. Well, so Trump plays poker when he's in a chess match. That's the problem. Maybe he's not a terrible poker player. Maybe that's unfair. Maybe he is a good poker player. But his biggest problem is that he's playing poker on the grand stage with people who are playing chess, when he's used to playing. He's playing poker with friggin' Schumer and Pelosi. It's obvious that these people have never had to actually play a hard game of poker in their life. They don't know what to do. So. You notice that some days I'm really angry and other days I'm really happy. Oh, what? You just figured out I'm bipolar? What? It all depends on what I've seen for the day. You know, it all depends on, you know, where we are. I mean, I'm not consistent. I have my good days and my bad days. I get up on the wrong side of the bed. I have too much coffee. I, you know, read an article that makes me angry. You know, I'm an emotional guy. I don't sugarcoat any of that. You know, we go to the movies. I'm the one crying. My wife is sitting there taking notes on the screenplay. I'm the one, you know, I'm the one crying. That's who I am. I am both tremendously analytically gifted and unbelievably open. It makes me a great artist, and at the same time gives me great artistic instincts, but at the same time also gives me the ability to do root cause analysis. Those two things together, yeah, at times you got to really watch those things. I have to watch myself, and every once in a while I might get it over my skis. Whatever. No one's perfect, and we can't ask, and I don't ask you guys to be perfect either in your analysis or your oh, hold on for a second. The cat wants in. Yes, Cal, come on. So, and he'll just sit there and whine the entire time if I don't, and I can't stand it. So, you know, I know that there have been times in the past, especially, you know, some of the regulars on Periscope like Buck and others I've gotten into it with. I know you guys have your frustrations with me or with the situation, and we're gonna have a difference of opinion. We're gonna disagree about a great many things in this life. That's normal. If we're not disagreeing, then we're doing it wrong. Okay? I mean, it's just the truth. And you're not always going to be great. But I don't have a filter. And if I start filtering myself, then I'm going to lose that edge that makes me worth listening to. And I know that. And that means that it's going to be you know, I know that the growth path for this is always going to be five, you know, add 5 people, lose 3. I understand that. I've come to terms with it, that the growth path is, you know, gain 3, lose 2. Eventually you get to the point where it's gain 5, lose 3. And one of these days it'll be gain 7, lose 4. And then, you know, as long as that gap is widening every time, eventually we'll get to where we need to go, and we'll get to 10, 15,000 people on YouTube, and, you know, and that'll be that. And that's what we need. And so there you go. Angry Tom is the best Tom. Sometimes that's usually when I'm the most witty. I'll tell you that the only, because look, the best comedians are all harboring like a big fucking chip on their shoulder, right? Well, guess what? I can tell you that, you know, the comedy ain't good, but it's free, at least on the live stream. You know, on the market reports, you guys pay $4 a month for that. I do tend to try and make the jokes at least reasonably good. So there you go. I don't think I'm bipolar, but I'm certainly, everybody says I'm ADHD. I don't even like buy that as a clinical diagnosis. I'm sorry. I just don't. I think it's one of those horrible, I think it's a bad diagnosis, but you know, then again, who the fuck am I, right? All right. So, and there is no such thing as too much coffee. I agree, but I do drink decaf for most of the day. Tom is bipolar. Imagine my shock. The neocons are exposed. They have no political base, and now a base party of support. You're absolutely right. I mean, I'm a typical New York Italian. Yeah, it's just, you know, it is. I look at it here, as long as we're not getting into, this is one of the things about Periscope that's frustrating, because of the nature of that interface. It's a little different than here on YouTube. Is that you get a lot more trolls, you get a lot more bad interaction with people. I don't know why. I think there's something about streaming on YouTube it's a different audience, even though it's the same people. Well, mostly the same people. It seems to be a different audience. There's just fewer trolls on YouTube live streams than there are on Twitter. On Periscope. So, everyone's practicing their Mandarin for when China takes over the world. I can tell you that what's his name? Jim Rogers is having his kids learn Mandarin. That's why he moved to Singapore. There is no anti-war movement. It is good that Tulsi Gabbard. So let's actually talk about the title of this piece tonight, which is Tulsi Gabbard announcing for the presidency. I think that's great. I don't think she'll get anywhere. She won't get any support, but I think she will at least keep the anti-war narrative on the table for the Democrats. And if she gets any support at the popular level, if she upside surprises in any early primaries and in any polling, it will be good for her. It would also just be good for her to campaign on the national stage that way and get some exposure. Because to be honest with you, if Trump does win a second term, let's move forward here. Let's think. We got what, 5 minutes left, 7 minutes left. Let's talk. Let's go forward a little bit. Think about where, if Trump wins a second term, we're going to have more cabinet turnover. We're going to have more. We're going to have a different. If Trump survives the next year and a half or 2 years, comes out the other side of 2020 with the presidency in his hand. That's a big if, but let's go with that. There's going to be an opportunity, if Tulsi Gabbard plays her cards right during the primaries and positions herself properly, that she could find herself within a second-term Trump administration. There's plenty of opportunity for her. Okay? There'd be plenty of opportunity for Trump to heal some divide, too, and to really begin to remake U.S. foreign policy by putting someone like her in a position of power within the administration. Remember, here's the gig. The GOP has done themselves no favors with Trump. If he wins a second term, there's going to be very, very little reason for Trump, given the way that the GOP has acted and the way they betrayed him during the 2018 midterms. for him to reward party bosses with ambassadorships and all this other stuff. That's not going to happen. Remember, this I can believe about Trump. This is where he will go off script. This is why I love the idea, even though it turned out to not be true, that he was considering Jim Webb for Secretary of Defense. Right? I like the idea of going forward of Trump taking notes on the Democrats that announce and make it through the early stages of the primaries, depending on how well they resonate, that he could easily pull some people in a second term, some of those people, and appoint them to important positions. It's not like pulling Tulsi Gabbard out of the House is going to then get a Republican replacement. It's not going to weaken the Democrats' position at all. If anything, in the House, it'll actually strengthen it, because we'll probably get somebody more mainstream Democrat crazy than she. But you can give her an ambassadorship. You give her to an important country. And we're not talking about, some shithole. We're talking about the ambassadorship to Russia, or to, we actually create an ambassadorship to Syria or whatever. That these are important, or God forbid, ambassador to the UN. An important position would be really good for everybody. It would be really, really strong. So, yeah, by the way, guys, learning Russian is probably a strong bet, because, to be honest with you, the Russians or Hungarian, because the Russians and the Hungarians and very few others are actually, working up the cultural ladder, as opposed to falling into the miasma of cultural Marxism. They're clawing their way out of it, while we're all going in the wrong direction. The big question of Trump's second term is, where is Pence? Probably as vice president, unless Trump gets out over. Pence gets out over his skis, sides with the Democrats in the Mitt Romney wing of the Republican Party, and tries to get him removed from office. And then Trump will exact his revenge by getting rid of Pence. At that point, we do not go for Rand Paul out of the Senate. We go for someone else as his VP. Wouldn't it be awesome if he said, hey, Gabbard would be a great pick at that point? That would fuck everybody up. That would be strategically and tactically brilliant. Right? He sits her down and says, look, we're pulling out of Syria, we're pulling out of Afghanistan, all this shit's going away. You be my vice president. Help me get through that. Help me, let me get across the party lines there. Let's get this done. Come on. It'd be fantastic. Something like that would be really interesting. No, I'm not down with all this. I'm just vamping at this point. I give him 50% chance of even surviving the end of his first term at this point. So maybe 60-40. So we'll see. I hope he gets a second term. I mean, there's nobody on the Democrat side I want to see as president. So let's just not mince words here. All right. Was buying 1,000 ounces in gold and silver a good move? I can't tell you one way or the other how much gold and silver you should or should not own. That is a personal thing, but I can tell you that you should own some. How much you should own is entirely up to you, but I think you should own some. I think everybody should be their own central bank at a certain level. All right. I got quoted on the John Miller show this week. I wish I knew who John Miller was. To be honest, you want to know what the funny part about all this is? That article was a throwaway I put together in about half an hour. That's the funny part. I just was like, I need to put a quote. I need to put a quick thing together to support the video, so that the video will get a couple hundred extra hits. Maybe I'll make it onto Zero Hedge. That was all. I just threw something together and that quick. And actually, I wound up editing it the next morning, putting the update in about the the official change in the crackdown. They're going to crack down even harder in France, and then threw a couple of extra paragraphs in. I happened to be in a mood, and it all just kind of worked out. Lightning in a bottle. But a lot of the stuff that people respond to is the stuff that I think is, lesser work. Kind of funny, actually. All right. Trump asked Pence if he'd be his running mate the other day after the midterm. Pence said yes. Okay. Rohrabacher, he's gone. I wish they would give him an ambassadorship. I'm okay with Gabbard being a progressive on domestic issues. I don't really care. I mean, look, at the end of the day, nobody's perfect. If you put her in a position where she can be effective at the things that she's good, we need her to be good at, then I'm okay with it. You take her out of the house. You give her an ambassadorship. You give her an important foreign policy post. That's important. So. Trump needs to take control and be friends with Russia. I know. They're not going to... Here's the thing. They don't ever really want... Okay, there's two things about the Mueller investigation when you really stop to think about it. It's two things. If they've got enough that they think that they can impeach him or go for a 25th Amendment thing, then the Mueller's investigation will come to a conclusion. He will issue a report, and they'll move forward. If they don't get anything out of him, then it's going to stay open-ended for as long as possible in order to try and sabotage Trump into the 2020 election. What's the allure of having Pence around? Nobody wants him as president other than the neocons. Blaze TV, but Glenn Beck is controlled oppo. That guy's a fucking that guy's fucking horseshit. All right, we're at an hour and 1 minute, 2 minutes. It's time for me to go. Russia is done with the U.S. They have completely turned their backs on us. At this point, any agreements that the U.S. puts forward with the Russians won't sign. The Russians are only interested in actions anymore. They're not interested in words. They'll keep lines of communication open, but the Americans have got to act. So, but they're just literally moving forward on their own, and you can see it every day as they. If you follow Putin and his diplomatic staff, the Americans talk, they do things, and then nobody else actually listens to a word they say. And now they're just getting uppity and just telling them to shut up. And Trump, notice, is not getting involved in it. That's the right play. All right, guys. Y'all have a great weekend. Truly have a great weekend. I've got baby goats to feed and a new mom to milk and to get used to the milk stand, and she's doing really well. And I'm sure I'll write something hopefully inflammatory over the weekend. My latest article is over at, if you hate John Bolton, my latest article over at Strategic Culture is all about John Bolton. That's Trump's Hail Mary has become Bolton's nightmare. That's the title. Go ahead and read it. Other than that, I think that's a show. You guys take care. You be good. Have a great weekend. Keep your stick on the ice.